It was just past dawn when the light fog still clung to the grass and the cold bit through metal. Trucks rumbled down the highway, tires chewing the asphalt, drivers lost in thought, coffee, or the rhythm of routine. On that morning, no one expected to see anything out of place on the stretch between rest stops. But as one 18-wheeler crested a small rise, the driver, Mason, spotted something strange near the shoulder. At first glance, it looks like torn clothing or maybe a discarded bag. But then it moved. Mason hit the brakes hard. A few cars honked as they swerved around him, but he didn't care. He'd seen the flash of a bushy tail, and something in his gut told him that this wasn't just road debris. Parking on the narrow shoulder and flicking on the hazards, Mason approached carefully. His boots crunching gravel, what he saw stopped him cold. A fox, young, small, and trembling. The fur was matted, one leg bent at an impossible angle. Blood streaked the pavement. The fox's eyes locked onto Mason's, terrified, confused, and fading fast. It was dragging itself forward, using its front paws, trying to escape, though clearly going nowhere. Most would have driven on. Most did, but Mason wasn't most. Gently, cautiously, Mason took off his flannel overshirt and knelt. The fox tried to growl, but it came out as a whimper. "Easy, friend," Mason whispered, wrapping the fox like he'd seen a vet do once on television. He moved slowly, talking the entire time, not expecting the fox to understand, but needing to fill the silence with care. He carried the fox to the cab of his truck and set the bundle on the passenger seat. Blood was soaking through the shirt. Mason's fingers trembled as he searched for the nearest wildlife rehab center. It was over an hour away. Most places wouldn't even open for another 2. He could have waited. He could have left the fox on the roadside and justified it 100 different ways. But he didn't. Mason made a decision that would change both of their lives. He turned the truck around. The drive felt longer than it should have. Every pothole made the fox jolt. At red lights, Mason reached over and whispered, "Stay with me." The fox's eyes blinked slowly, barely responsive, but it was alive, still breathing. The wildlife center was quiet when Mason pulled in. He pounded on the back door until a groggy staffer came out, ready to scold. But the moment the fox was lifted from Mason's arms, the urgency took over. The staff worked fast. Oxygen, pain relief, fluids. The diagnosis was grim. A shattered rear leg, internal bruising, possible spinal trauma, an infection already setting in. No microchip, no collar, just a broken creature in need of a miracle. They said the odds were low. Mason didn't argue. He just sat in the lobby for hours. The fox was stabilized. Surgery would be necessary. The leg couldn't be saved. It would have to be amputated. But there was hope. Small, fragile hope. Mason asked if he could come back. They told him yes, but no promises. He came back the next day, and the next. He brought pieces of fabric, soft food, and once, a blanket from his truck cab that still smelled like diesel and flannel. There were moments when the staff wondered if the trauma had gone too deep, but each time Mason visited, Chance lifted a head. Not much, but enough. Days turned to weeks. Chance survived the surgery, though the limp was permanent. The sleek red fur began to return. The eyes grew brighter, and slowly, trust returned. Then, one afternoon, when Mason arrived with a container of boiled chicken and a worn-out tennis ball, Chance did something no one expected. Chance wagged a tail. It wasn't the wag of a dog or the slink of a cat. It was subtle, but it was real. The staff was stunned. Mason knelt down, pressed a hand near the enclosure, and for the first time, Chance limped forward, not away, but toward. It was the beginning of something no one had anticipated. Rehabilitation took 3 months. Chance had to relearn balance, confidence, and safety. The staff initially planned to release the fox back into the wild. But the injury changed things. A 3-legged fox wouldn't survive long in the wild. The predators, the terrain, the isolation, it was too much. Chance couldn't go back, but Chance didn't need to. Mason applied for a wildlife foster license. He built an outdoor enclosure on his property, wide, secure, filled with trees, tunnels, and a warm shelter. He read every manual, took every course. Chance wasn't just a rescued animal anymore. Chance was family. The first day at the new home was quiet. Chance explored slowly, limping across grass and sniffing new things. Mason sat outside for hours, watching from a distance. Eventually Chance circled back and rested near him, not touching, not asking, just near. Time passed. Chance grew playful, a little mischievous. Birds in the trees didn't scare Chance anymore. Thunder didn't send the fox hiding. There were days when Mason found the tennis ball at the gate, as if Chance was inviting a game, and nights when the fox would curl up close to the porch light, waiting for Mason's voice. They found peace in each other's quiet. Chance didn't become tame, not entirely. That wasn't the goal. The goal was to give life back to something the world had nearly erased. Mason didn't need gratitude. All he needed was the sound of paws in the grass, the flash of a red tail disappearing behind a log, the reminder that sometimes doing the right thing isn't easy, but it matters. Chance's story reached far. A truck driver, a dying fox, and a moment of impossible kindness. News stations picked it up. Wildlife centers across the country reported a surge in injured animal reports. People began calling instead of ignoring. They stopped instead of driving on. Chance inspired something big. A single animal, a single act, a single life saved. And today, as Mason drinks his morning coffee on the porch, Chance still limps out from the brush, eyes soft, tail low, and rests at his feet like a living miracle, because sometimes being seen, truly seen, is all it takes to be saved. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to Rescue Animal Tales, and help us continue sharing the stories of those who can't speak for themselves. Your support makes it possible to bring light to lives once left in the dark.